Hello, everybody, and welcome to our pre-full moon series of 3 webinars. Actually, the 4th webinar on the day of the full moon will also be pre the full moon, which occurs on Wednesday, June 15th at 8:13 and 34 seconds p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We have an unusual opportunity because we can focus with the hierarchy on the 3 keynotes of the Gemini festival. And each of the 3 days preceding the day of the full moon has a special keynote. This day's keynote is the keynote of love. This will be followed tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. GMT, with the keynote of resurrection, and the day following will be the keynote of contact. And then early in the morning, at least as far as Europe and England are concerned, at 4 a.m. GMT, which is 5 a.m. British summertime, we will have our actual pre-full moon meditation. I always try to leave the moment of the full moon free of these webinars, as many of you have your own groups and will be engaged in various types of planned meditation at that time. The format for the meditation that we will follow is somewhat on the order of those we have been doing, but there will be a special section focused on the Christ and the Buddha, and on a section of the last sermon of the Buddha, which the Christ is said to emphasize on these days, and especially on the day of the Gemini full moon itself. So we will, without further ado, begin, and we will reach that section where we will all contemplate the keynote of love as the Tibetan describes it. These 3 days before the full moon are days of renunciation and detachment, and we have been living through the day of confidence, the first day of preparation, the day of confidence. So we will begin then in the customary manner. And together we will withdraw our consciousness step by step from the personality vehicles and from the personality considered as a whole. We pull back, we abstract, we remove our attention from the physical etheric nature, from the sentient nature, and from the lower mind. And we find ourselves as the soul in incarnation. We affirm this fact to our consciousness, we are a point of being consciousness. And as we intensify this sense of being the soul in incarnation, that sense begins to merge with the sense of being the soul on its own plane. We tune in, at least imaginatively, the higher mental plane, and we establish ourselves within the field of light, love, and spiritual power. And as if around us, around this point of being consciousness with which we identify ourselves, that world of light and of love and of spiritual will and power is present. And as the sense of the soul on its own plane grows, we merge more deeply into the sense of the group soul. Those fellow egos on the higher mental plane with whom we are meditating, the egos of all men and women of goodwill, the spiritually minded people of the world. We merge in soul with them and with the new group of world servers, wherever they may be on this planet geographically. We find our oneness with them. We sense our unity with these fellow souls. And we carry this merging even further, as if registering the one soul of humanity. Realizing that there is in this world of soul no my soul, thy soul, but only the one soul. And we ponder on the great second ray mantra, naught is but me. The great me, the one identity, naught is but me. Especially at this approach to the Gemini full moon, we should be able to sense this. It brings in so much of the second ray. There is the other self, which we recognize, but we, the one self, grow and glow. The one soul self behind and within all the billions of human beings, personalities, naught is but me. And together, as if focusing on the mental plane now, but within the light of the soul, we imagine a point of group tension. The mental unit of each of us combining to form one point of tension. But we will call upon the will aspect of our soul to strengthen that point of tension. The will to initiate of the first ray, the will to unify of the second ray, the will to evolve of the third ray, the will to harmonize of the fourth ray, the will to act of the fifth ray, the will to cause of the sixth ray, the will to express of the seventh ray. Bring in the will aspect of your soul to strengthen the group point of tension, fed by the light, love, and power of the soul. And as that point of tension grows, strengthened by the will of the soul, it is also strengthened by the energies of the etheric, physical, and astral nature. They are drawn up into relation with it. And from the astral nature, a dual-colored antakarana, according to our individual soul and personality ray, is visualized. The many rainbow bridges of the united meditators, using the following colors, whether for the soul or personality: red for ray 1, indigo blue ray 2, green ray 3, yellow ray 4, orange ray 5, silvery rose or light blue for ray 6, violet for ray 7. We visualize this rainbow bridge, or if you are not certain of these rays or are in doubt, use the color indigo. Point of group tension on the mental plane, the many strands, the many dual strands of the group antakarana, as if touching the permanent atoms of the spiritual triad, monastic, Buddhic, Atmic, as if uniting in cone-like formation, touching the blue-white diamond of spirit. This we can imagine. Or if you choose to see us positioned upon a sphere, you can send the antakarana towards the blue-white center of the sphere. The multicolored group antakarana, all the colors of the rainbow involved. as if touching that impersonal sphere of the spiritual triad, the world of wisdom, the world of spiritual will, as if touching the world of pure being on the monadic plane. And across this Antikarana we send the vivid line of white light, each of us meeting at the very apex. And together we think, we project the word of power. I see the greatest light. We sound the Om as we think, I see the greatest light, and allow the general response to occur. The whole group is animated by this great light. And as a group, we are in touch with the higher worlds, the energy of which can descend into the area of our working consciousness as we work and we sustain this sense of the world of wisdom, of spiritual will, of higher mind. We have entered, in a way, the world wherein the masters dwell, the halls of wisdom. And in this world of the triad, we can seek their presence. We can even imagine that the Buddha, as he focuses in Shambhala, and as he will work with the Christ, can be at least imaginatively touched. And so in this triadal world, sensitive to it, to the great planetary consciousness it implies, we sound our salutations to the Master, to the head of the hierarchy, the Christ, and on this occasion we begin with the Lord Buddha, who will be in cooperation with the Christ during the Christ Festival, and whose last sermon the Christ preaches to the assembled hierarchy. Salutations to the Buddha, the Lord of Light and Wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters. Salutations to the triangles of masters with whom we work most closely. Salutations to the Master Moria, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master Kutumi, whose ashram is most responsible for the preparation for the reappearance of the Christ. Salutations to the Master Jwalku, who has given us the blue books and trains aspirants for initiation. Salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet, the Great White Brotherhood, the Society of Organized and Illumined Minds. We carry our thought upward imaginatively, upward and inward towards Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known, and with deepest reverence and humility, identified as a group soul, we attempt to attune to the consciousness, to the presence of Sanat Kumara, the king of Shambhala, the king of peace, focused at the very center of Shambhala. We attune with the great will which moves our planet. in all its various aspects. And together, silently, a long Om, as we imagine the group imbued by his energy. We and all meditating groups, and of course the hierarchy itself, imbued by this great energy of purpose and will. Into Shambhala, the energies come, they are assembled, they are distributed. And these energies, particularly of the sign Gemini at this time and its three planetary rulers, Mercury, revealing and conveying the interplay between the pairs of opposites. Venus as the esoteric ruler, uniting these pairs of opposites for our purposes, the group soul and the group personality. Venus before us, Mercury before us, and at last the Earth, hierarchical ruler, is the field of service. It is the base of the spine center of the solar logos, and that at last demonstrates fully a great center of redemption, towards which Venus, Mercury, and Gemini have sent their energies to aid in the redemptive process, redeeming the old energies of the moon chain and of the previous solar system. We will, of course, expand our approach to these planets as we go, and especially on the day of the full moon. But for now, we as if see them before us, and as if we are in their field, receptive as a group. We carry further our group imagination towards the great blue logos, the God of love, the home of the monad, the one who embraces all beings in his solar system, everywhere present, this blue logos, so connected with Sirius and with Gemini. Helios, the soul, the heart of love of the cosmic logos. We must not forget the sun, and more importantly, the logos that informs that sun and the system. We focus our imagination, our group imagination, on the constellation Gemini, radiating the light of interplay, as DK describes it. This is a line of light beams, revealing that which opposes, or the basic duality of manifestation, the relationship of spirit and of form. It is the conscious light of that relationship. It is Geminian, Mercurian, deeply connected with the consciousness that unites spirit and form, sentiency. And we continue by opening ourselves to the feel of the growing energy quality of Gemini, attempting to realize that Gemini is in relationship with every one of the constellational pairs of opposites, except itself, where Pisces takes its place. Gemini, with its second ray, always uniting the zodiacal opposites. Fusing, blending, relating, uniting, making our universe intelligible, connecting all polarities. And we feel as well at this time that the forces of reconstruction are gathering under the Gemini energy, making possible the rebuilding of human civilization and the planet according to the plan indicated by the forces of restoration, and all this process pursued in an illumined manner within the light shed by the forces of enlightenment, the forces of reconstruction. We realize how intimately the Christ will be related to those forces, and especially at the time of his festival, when the greatest degree of love is released. We can rebuild this shattered world along the right lines. Upon our planet, here, Earth, the hierarchical ruler, Gemini, will help us rebuild. We carry our thought toward the mantram itself, the great mantram of recognition of the dual self. I recognize my other self And in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. I recognize my other self. And in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. We must take our position within the soul to do this. And within the group soul, recognizing the group personality, that other shadow self, as if merged with the solar angel, we recognize our other self, and our radiance increases as its radiance dims. Its own elemental light dims. I recognize my other self. And in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. The so-called individual soul, the group soul, the soul of humanity. Our position is in the light. We feel the group soul waxing in radiance. All those we may work with as souls, the total effect waxing in power. And the souls of the nations waxing, overcoming their rebellious personalities. And the soul of humanity, most importantly, waxing in light, overcoming the ignorance of its personality. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. And naturally, we will be working with this over the coming days and during the days of distribution. From our alignment, we move into the section on the Christ and the Buddha. We focus our meditative attention on the Christ and the Buddha, realizing their brotherhood, their archetypal brotherhood, as they represent the West and the East, and the spiritual union which must take place between these two hemispheres. their amazing cooperation. We attempt to realize the manner in which they stand for the constellation Gemini, the brothers in the light. Each of them swaying hemispheres, swaying the world. So powerful, compelling was their teaching, is their teaching. And imagine their cooperation, the highest form of cooperation. We are told to prepare for the day of the full moon, when the Christ preaches the last sermon of the Buddha before the assembled hierarchy, before the hearts and minds of all human beings. We will prepare for that sermon by pondering on the following words from this last sermon. And these words will change on all the 3 preparatory days. Different sections will be taken. The Buddha said, "Herein, O Ananda, let a brother, as he dwells in the body, so regard the body, that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings." Herein, O Ananda, let a brother, as he dwells in the body, so regard the body, that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings. Let us affirm in ourselves the fact that we can be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful in the overcoming of the grief which arises from the body's cravings. Let us resolve to be so. Let our degree of strenuousness increase. Let our degree of thoughtfulness increase. Let our mindfulness increase. As it will that we follow the Buddha, who received a touch from the cosmic mental plane. group strenuousness, group thoughtfulness, group mindfulness. Our gratitude for the Buddha is profound. If we could only realize ever more deeply what he has done to illumine humanity, the amazing light that he has brought, giving us the power to vanquish Mara, the symbol of all illusion, glamour, and Maya. He has put us in touch with our own inner light, our own inner wisdom. Now we turn our attention to the Lord Maitreya, the Lord of Love, and with utmost heartfelt attentiveness, we listen inwardly, imagining that we hear the Christ sounding the great invocation, and we allow for a period of silent absorption of his imagined sounding. On each of the 3 days of preparation prior to the full moon, the Christ is said to speak the invocation alone. So with the consecrated act of imagination, we imagine that he sounds the invocation. And as we do that, with the consecrated imagination, that which is created in consciousness may begin to approximate the reality. Again, listening inwardly with great care, we imagine that the Christ and the entire hierarchy are intoning the first stanza of the great invocation. You know what it is, and it is there before your screen. We will listen as if the Christ and the entire hierarchy intone the first stanza. We contemplate the deep significance of these words, sent forth in unbelievable strength and purity by the entire hierarchy. This should bring us power in our own understanding and effective use and projection of this invocation into the world as World Invocation Day approaches. The most effective instrument we have, the Great Invocation, for preparing men's minds and hearts for the reappearance of the Christ. On each of the 3 days before the day of the Gemini full moon, Christ and his hierarchy are said to emphasize a distinct keynote. And so, as if in contemplation with the great Lord as he is strengthened by the Buddha, and in contemplation with the entire hierarchy, we focus on the first keynote described by Master DK as follows. The keynote of love in its hierarchical sense, free from sentiment, emotion, and personal emphasis, a love that sacrifices and understands, that acts with strength and decision, and that works on behalf of the whole, and not in the interests of any group or individual. The keynote of love. Free from sentiment, emotion, and personal emphasis, a love that sacrifices and understands. That acts with strength and decision. It works on behalf of the whole. The keynote of love. Which is the very essence of the consciousness of the Christ. So different, so elevated above our usual consciousness. So let us envision this type of love growing in ourselves and in all human beings as we imagine how we may apply this type of hierarchical love. There's always a mystery in this type of love. It comes as a surprise. It is other than what we may have imagined. When the real thing appears, how may we apply it in our individual lives, in our groups, in the wider sphere? This is the liberator from the distressed psyche of humanity. The great force which all disciples, especially in their groups, must learn to experience, to understand, to fathom, and to express. The keynote of love. And carry that keynote with you during this day, See if you can feel that hierarchical love which is now waxing with such strength until it begins to dominate the normally loveless mind, or a mind at least wanting in the full measure of love. Nothing greater in our solar system than this love. Let's see if we can fathom the mystery and enter that love. And be the expression of that love. It's the greatest thing in our world. So holding that in mind, we affirm our solidarity as a group with the Buddha, the Christ, and the assembled hierarchy. And we seek to identify with them and to merge our purpose with their purpose, which is, of course, the purpose of the King, the Lord of the world. Their purpose is our purpose. Their intention is ours. The strength of their will is ours in some measure. They are very close. And we are within their field. So as we merge with them imaginatively, we bless the world in silence, expressing the energy we feel from them flowing through us. The love and the wisdom are real, and no matter how dire the global situation may look, humanity can and will overcome. We pause for a moment of appreciation and of the appreciation of the illumined, loving energies of the constellation Gemini. Really a system of 7 major stars: Pollux, and 3 sets of doubles, making 7. Appreciation. And during these days, we will feel ourselves increasingly imbued by the energies of Gemini, helping us create right human relations, the very theme of Shambhala as it applies to humanity. So we hold our alignment, we hold it during these days. And as if in union with the Christ and the hierarchy, and all the disciples of the world, and sensing the Buddha behind it all, as the Christ carries forward his work and unites it with his own, we will sound together the first stanza of the great invocation, sounding it out loud wherever you may be, sensing the redemptive union of light and love. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Oh. Brothers and sisters, let us hold our alignment. We will continue this series of meditations tomorrow night again at 9 p.m. GMT, Universal Time, which does not change. We will continue with the note of resurrection and emphasize the stanza of love of the great invocation. I'm very grateful for those of you who have attended, and we have a good group of meditating disciples tonight. You probably can see who you are, and wherever you are in the world, I appreciate your presence. If for any reason, and I trust the sound is okay, I hope so, otherwise I imagine more of you would be gone, I will get this to Brett by the morning, and we'll get it posted for you. And we'll do that with each of the these meditations, and you will be able to download them from Transfer Big Files, but also every one of these will be on the Makara website. So they'll be collected there, and you'll be able to reference them there. So there'll be 4 meditations then in this series. Okay, well then, good night, good day, good morning to all of you. And let's hold that amazing alignment, because the highest point of spiritual love, I think, related to the 7th initiation of the Christ, is achieved at the full moon in Gemini. His 7th initiation is not over. We don't know how many phases it occurs in. The first phase has already occurred. It may well be that another phase occurred in 1943. and yet another phase has to occur toward the end of the Aquarian age. In any case, the love is very real, very powerful, and we can participate in it and help to redeem our surroundings. Okay, everyone, then. We will see you tomorrow in about 23 hours from now. Bye-bye.